also via the survey regarding initiatives for unemployed graduates, retrenched professionals. And I think that this leads nicely into how you've explained the concept of imbalance that exists in the availability of projects and the demand for skills right now. And as Vishal Krishan mentioned, with regards to an assessment in terms of when we can look at industry recovering and the demand resetting, it's a process that we are all looking at intently to be able to for a recovery across the board. But to the unemployed graduates and retrenched professionals, if there are types of initiatives that you would like for SAICI to be able to champion on your behalf, and for us to be able to take on board, I think that it's important that you engage us either via email or on social media, for us to be able to, and through your divisions and your branch chapters, to be able to, for that information to cascade through. Final question from my side, and I think that this ties in really nicely with a comment that's come from Erin De Silva. She says, fantastic presentations and discussions, and just in time for World Engineering Day. So World Engineering Day to take place on the 4th of March as a result of the UNESCO engineering report that's being released. She says, we need to accept the responsibility that we as engineers play and that we as engineers play an integral role in sustainable development that refers to all 17 SDGs. And this ties in very nicely with what Chandida Debe said initially in her Q&A. She says, as a civil engineer with a speciality in environmental engineering, I am very troubled by what I see day in and day out in the Johannesburg CBD. The dirt and filth is no longer bearable. And I want to provide education to all taxi ranks, informal settlements, train and bus stations regarding the clean environment. And I don't know where to start or who to call. And I think that that's a very interesting dynamic, particularly because we are in the decade of action to achieving the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And with regard to how we deal with things like solid waste management, and what is SAICI doing in this space, and how can our individual members get involved and get active? So I'm going to leave this with Vishal Krishan, that if you were able to take this question regarding addressing the key engineering skills with regards to the SDGs.
Yeah, Jesh, this is a good question. The unfortunate part is that as we continue to upskill, we're finding that there's always gaps in the market for where we really need to find a more knowledge base. So from the perspective of getting on these strategic development goals that are going to be implemented, we need to now start focusing on the critical aspects. And as you spoke about the environmental aspects in Johannesburg, once again, it all depends on the human impact of the environment, of the infrastructure, as well as looking at the maintenance aspect that comes into play. As engineers, we look at designing more, but unfortunately, what has happened is that we've left maintenance by the wayside. So we need to now be pushing for more of the maintenance aspect within the infrastructure domain. Look at how we can maintain what's there. The more we maintain, the more money, the money we can save. That obviously can go towards more programs in terms of development. So those are the aspects that come to play. Yeah, I'm not too sure if I've
Thank you for that. Vishal, Lakshman, you want to add anything on there before we close?
Yes, thanks. Thank you, Jessica. On the topic of SDGs is very interesting. For those that have looked at the 17, you'll notice that they are not standalone. In other words, if you focus on one SDG, you inadvertently pull another 7 or 8 along with you. So in my mind, the current situation in our country sits with SDG 4, which is an education issue and an access to quality education, and SDG 9, which is an innovation or technology type discussion related to infrastructure and industrialization. So those two, if you look at the constructs of education and SDG 4 and 9, you will find that the improves skills, the quality education in an inclusive manner helps the inclusivity and diversity discussion. So they all are sort of integrated. And I think in our country, related to that question on environmental, what I've seen lacking is an ability to integrate silos. And I sort of have a tongue-in-cheek debate with academia on that one. Because when we study civil engineering, we tend to focus on the really cold part of engineering. Then you have the sociologists who focus on the warm part, which is the human side, and the study of human beings, which is social anthropology. Then you have the climate and earth sciences people focusing on the environment. And then you've got the finance sector, which is and there's a lot of work being done in the verticals related to those four constructs. So that's the four disciplines that need to actually start talking to each other and be a bit more lateral and go for a width of information rather than depth. And there isn't that opportunity just yet. So that is why within the institution, we actually need to start understanding the social side of infrastructure and the earth sciences side of infrastructure and the planners that need to plan for all four of these dimensions in the way we plan for infrastructure. So once you start to do that, you start to appreciate diversity. You start to appreciate LITAP. You start to appreciate biodiversity, for example, in the developments that we are doing. And you start to appreciate justice and social injustice in the way we plan and execute infrastructure in various parts of our country right now, which needs to be repaired in my mind. So when we start to integrate these four concepts, we have a better chance of succeeding and connecting those four items I mentioned earlier on, which is infrastructure with education, with poverty, with diversity and unemployment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vishal. So I think that brings us to the end of our Q&As. We've had quite a lot of Q&As that have come through, and what we do commit to doing over the next couple of weeks would be through the other PR and marketing exercises that SAIC does run. We will look to address some of the other questions that have come through, just so that you are able to get responses. And with the limited time that we have available, we're unable to address all of your questions. So that wraps up our Q&As. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight serves as a reminder of how far we've come, how much more work there is in this phenomenal profession that is civil engineering. Please take this as an open invite to get more involved and get, as Vishal mentioned, the importance of recognizing the SDGs in our engineering work. We are celebrating World Engineering Day on the 4th of March. There is an activity that SAIC is hosting on the 4th of March from the SAIC's Environmental Engineering Division. So please do keep a lookout for that on your social media. A huge thank you to our sponsor, Macquarie South Africa, our esteemed panel, CEO Vishal Lakshman, the passionate, dynamic Noluthando Zita, and our president, Vishal Krishnadath. The biggest thank you, ladies and gentlemen, goes out to you, our valued members of SAIC. The South African Institution of Civil Engineering salutes you, says, incredible things can be done, not because we know how to do it. Incredible things can be done simply because we want it to happen. That's all. Following on from tonight, let us reaffirm our commitment to civil engineering. Ladies and gentlemen, good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Madam MC, for the job.